Okay, so we're recording. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. And I'm Ann Smith, and this is Iron Sharpens Iron Council, a ministry dedicated to uplift humanity. And today we have Jaime, and we're going to be talking about health and natural healing. And off camera we were talking about. I told Jaime that I might have some surprises for him, but he can definitely teach me some new things. So, go ahead and introduce yourself for people who don't know you, and then, we can get into the discussion.
Hi, I'm Jaime, and well, that's what most people call me. So let's get into it.
All right, that was a snappy intro. I like it, short and sweet. So, what made you go into or decide, what was your transition from doing, living your life into going into natural health and deciding that that was the way for you?
I don't know, some years back I started to read more spiritual texts, and reading the spiritual texts, I noticed that they would speak about, if you want to become enlightened, you must cut out meat, eating animals out of your diet, because not only is it not a natural thing for a human vessel to consume, but it doesn't affect us on just a physical aspect, but it also affects us on the mental and even DNA and etheric planes of our being, because eating animal flesh and DNA, you're eating their DNA, and most die scared. So you're consuming all these toxins that are in the meat when you're eating them. And so I really went into being a plant-based going on a plant-based diet, strictly because the ancient sages said it. And even if you read the Bible, on the first page of the Bible, it tells you that God created the plant of seed and herb for the meat of man. And if you do the etymology on the word meat, it just means food. So when he says for the meat of man, means for the food of man. So therefore, men, even in Genesis, says, if you're into Christianity, or if you understand how to truly read the Bible, it's telling you that we're not supposed to eat plants. Now, I remember when veganism first started coming out, like about 7 years ago, 8 years ago, when people started, I would be on there arguing with vegans, or people that were on a plant-based diet, like, what are you just arguing from my unknowledgeable standpoint, just what I grew up knowing, and the things that I've done my whole life. I'm arguing, what do you mean humans have been eating meat, or the nonsense they show you on Discovery Channel and Science Channel about how early man had to eat meat for our brains to grow. Like, there's all these. I used to be into evolution, and I left Christianity when I was very, very young. It just didn't seem very possible to me of being so I was like 8 years old when I was like, what, Christianity is not for me. I went to being an atheist for a while, just believing that, we appear, we live, we die, and that's kind of the end of things. So I was into that,
Are you a vegan now? I mean, you transitioned to being a vegan now?
Oh yeah, I've been plant-based for like 6 years now. So
Oh, okay.
I don't like using the word vegan. I don't like titles, and
No, I get it.
I'm just a plant-based eater. I mean, vegetarian is good enough. If you look up the word vegetarian and the definition, it means you eat vegetables only. People now want to call themselves vegan, and you got people like saying, "Oh, I don't eat meat. I only eat fish." I'm like, hold on, what's on the bones of a fish? It's meat. It's called flesh. Everything has flesh. Fish have flesh. We have flesh. Cows have flesh. Apples have flesh. Peaches have flesh. It's all flesh. But if when you eat a fish, you're still eating the flesh of an animal. So don't be like, oh, I don't eat meat. I only eat fish. I mean, that to me is one of the most ridiculous things I hear people say.
I wanted to just kind of share with you and all our listeners is that when I transition, because I'm a vegan now too, I just like to use words that are in the commonly used, right? So that people could relate to as many people as possible. So I transitioned to being a vegan, but it took me years. I would say a good 13 to 14 years, and I'll tell you why. It took that long because I transitioned. I didn't go cold turkey. I transitioned by removing things from my diet over a period of time. Now, way back when, 20, 25 years ago, when I started, contemplating, a healthier lifestyle and through a healthier diet, the first thing that I gave up, consciously gave up as a decision for my health, was pork. And after that, I started working through the food chain starting with the meats. So I gave up pork. That was the first thing, and that I thought it was going to be challenging, but it wasn't. Like pork chops and stuff like that, because I grew up eating all of that, right? And like you said, we eat out of habit and how we were raised, right? So I was raised with eating pork chops and bacon and all of that, in my food, in my meals every day. Not every day, but, regularly, frequently. I did have a hard time initially giving up bacon because your brain, or at least mine, was just, especially when you smell it cooking, that was like, oh my gosh, that was the torture initially. But now, of course, I'm all the way at the other end of the spectrum. It's not even challenging. It's actually pretty nasty and disgusting to me now to smell it. But I worked through the food chain and starting with the meats, giving up, starting with pork, and then I think, what was the next one? I think I gave up beef next, and then chicken. I was never into like lamb and none of that. It was so rare that it wasn't even like really giving it up. So pork, beef, chicken. I stayed with seafood for many, 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 many years because, like you just mentioned, sorry, that's my alarm. My 11:11 alarm. I wanted to believe that eating seafood wasn't flesh. And I think a lot of vegetarians feel that way. And I was new to the knowledge and new to eating healthier. So I remained eating, lots of different seafood. And then, and I'm talking about crabs and shrimps and lobster and scallops, all of it, right? All of it. But then I started to consciously make that decision to transition away from seafood. So it had gotten to the point where I had removed all of the other seafood except for salmon. I, convinced myself that salmon was good for my health. I needed the protein. It had the good fats and all that kind of stuff. So my transition away from the meats was solid, and that only within like 1 year got rid of the pork, the beef, and the chicken. Right? No meat. And that was 1 year. For the transition out of seafood, because I was so comfortable with it until I started building up my knowledge. Oh my gosh, Jamie, that took 5, 6, 7 years, like a long time. And then I stayed with salmon for years still. I finally, gave that up, but I'll still partake from time to time with salmon. But I know that now that I'm trying to embrace the Dr. Sebi diet, that the salmon is a no-no. That's not on his approved list. And so, but let me tell you, whenever I stick to the diet, and I hate calling it a diet, it's a lifestyle. But whenever I stick to the foods on the Dr. Sebi approved list, I feel like I could conquer the world. I feel on top of the world. I get energy. I get motivated. It just works for me. I'm not promoting it. I'm not beating nobody over the head. I'm just telling you what's been working for me, because you very well know we talk a lot about my health issues off camera. And whenever I eat something that is not suitable for my body, I feel it right away, because I'm so in tune to how I feel and what makes me feel good and what makes me don't feel good, and like that. So I'm having a really good run with the Dr. Sebi approved list, and I've been doing that now for about, I don't know, 6 months. And I feel when I stick to it, because I always fall off the wagon, okay? Like I'll eat something that's not on the list, and I immediately feel the difference. Like immediately. When I say immediately, within the hour of consuming the whatever, I will feel bloated and just feel heavy, and I may even get a headache, and I just don't want to talk. I'm not in this festive, vibrant mood. It just kind of kills my mood. It has this profound effect on me immediately. So it may not be for you. It may not be for everyone, but it's working for me, and whenever I stick to it, I feel a difference. I can think clearly, and when I talk about sticking to it, let me talk about sticking to it, because what do I mean by that? Not just one day, right? Not just 1 week. It usually takes my body and my mind 2 weeks to get reacclimated to whatever it is I'm working on. So a good run of 2 weeks of eating right or eating clean, right? Oh, I don't know why I fall off the wagon, because I love the way I feel when I have that experience. But then inevitably, my mind wanders, or I see something, or I smell something. I'll see somebody eating a cookie or a chocolate bar, and then I indulge, and then I feel bad, physically. Like I really feel bad physically. Like it just has that effect on me. So I just wanted you to kind of share what you're learning, because I'm telling you, that has been my evolution, and I'm paying attention to that's the greatest gift that you could give to yourself. Pay attention to what you're putting into your mouth, because nobody else can force you to eat this or eat that. So you have full control over that. So I'm taking charge of that, right? And when I take charge of that, I feel so much better. Like just when I stick to it, and I'm not talking about any diet. I just know that this clean, quote unquote, I'm like you, I don't like titles, but I just use words that are fairly familiar and common, right? So that we can, reach the masses. So this clean eating and all of that, that is where it's at for me. For me, it's not about following any specific ideology or what happens to be popular at the time. I don't follow trends. I just follow what works for me, and I'm just a person that likes to try things. I love the trial and error process, research and development. That's just innate to me, and I just stumbled upon the Dr. Sebi study, and it's working.
Well, I mean, I'm very well versed in Dr. Sebi's work. I've studied it before. I know what on his list and things like that. But just to touch on a couple of things that you said.
Okay.
So I quit cold turkey all meat at one shot. So my yoga master Yasir Ra Hotep, we talk about this because he's vegan, and he always will preach that you can't be a proper yogi if you're consuming animal products of any sort. Also, another great teacher, Santos Bonacci, also tells you can't be a great philosopher or astronomer if you're consuming animal products. So the thing with that is like people stick with seafood. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of speciesism going on. Like people eat a cow, but they won't eat their dog. I mean, flesh is flesh. I mean, why are you being discriminative about it? You know what I mean? So I mean, so there's speciesism. People find because through their indoctrination that they'll eat this, and then you'll hear about somebody in West Virginia eating a possum and thinking that that's disgusting. But you know, that's their indoctrination. They grew up in the woods of West Virginia and they eat possums. I mean,
Right. It's
that's what
normal
it
to
is.
them.
Right, it's normal to them. But so you know, I like I said, I came home one day and I told after reading some spiritual stuff and was like, all right, you know what? I'm done with meat. I quit meat. And so that was
Wow.
before I understood the health implications of eating meat. That was solely because I understood from reading much wiser people than me that to become as wise as them, I would have to change my thing because, see, it's about if you can't if you see part of this journey as a soul and spirit in the vessel in this flesh vessel, you know, is to learn how to control things. Now, see, eating is just to keep your body alive. There's no other purpose for eating other than to keep your vessel healthy and alive. So people turn and twisted eating into a pleasure and, oh, I got to have this and this got to taste like, no, you know, you don't see birds out there saying, you know, I'm going to wait until I get the best looking, juiciest worm. Like if they see a worm and it's edible,
Right.
they're going to eat it
The
because
gluttony.
it's not gluttony. It's about truly lack of being, because see, the sages understood that if you couldn't control such a simple thing about what you put into your body, then you're not ready, you're not disciplined enough to do the real work that you need to do to accomplish what you're supposed to accomplish in this lifetime. So not only did they understand it had health implications, but on a spiritual level of things that you can't stop, like I said, just a simple thing like, oh, I like to eat meat. I mean, I used to love Philly cheesesteaks. I used to tear up all kinds of meat. But once you learn something, you know it. If you continue to still do what you know is wrong, then you know that
Says
says
a
a
lot
lot of,
about you.
yeah, it says a lot about your character. So I
Mm.
mean, it's all about character and your willpower. So you know, like I said, my master Yasir says, you know, moderation is for the weak, and unfortunately I kind of agree with him, and this is just our opinion, obviously. I mean, people can do what they want to do, but it's like when a crackhead goes to the rehab, the rehab doesn't give him a little bit of crack here, a little bit of crack there to slowly wean them off. It's cold turkey, like, okay, you're done, because see, food is known to be just as addictive as crack or heroin, anything like that. So if you're gonna quit it, you can't really be taking in little pieces here and there and be like, oh, well, I'm just gonna have a little bit of this meat tonight. I'm not gonna have as much as I normally do, because again, you're enticing your desire. So to touch on that, and then to touch about people who think, okay, well, I'm just gonna eat fish or I'm gonna eat crabs and stuff like that. Well, the one thing about crabs and like shrimp or lobster or anything, these are scavengers. They're eating the dead. They're eating things that are not even alive when they eat it. So like when you eat it when it's not alive, and then you're eating something that's not alive. This has a lot of spiritual implications and health implications. So I mean, and the one thing I tell any meat eater, if you want to say you want to eat animals, okay, cool. But the truth is, if you're going to eat an animal, you should be eating the organs of the animal, like the liver, the intestines, where all the minerals and nutrients are. The flesh of an animal has no nutrients in it. So, but you also mentioned something about you stuck with salmon. So a little couple of things about salmon is that salmon is the most heavily farmed fish out there. So you don't want anything farmed because it's treated with all kind of chemicals. I've seen farming pools when I was in Central America for what's the other popular fish? Tilapia. Tilapia is probably the second. I mean, salmon and tilapia are pretty close to the number one farm type of
Mhm.
meat fish that's out there. And I've seen farm pools and things like that. So I mean, you're eating this stuff to get protein, but what you don't. You also mentioned healthy fats when you're talking about salmon as well. I mean, um, protein. The only reason why animals have protein is because they either eat
The
plants
plant.
themselves or they eat an animal that eats plants, because only plants can synthesize amino acids to create protein.
Life.
There's actually more protein in a lot of plants than you get out of eating meat. And then also healthy fats, you got fruits like avocado, which have all the healthy fats you need. So people don't need to eat meat to get these things. And actually protein is a huge myth anyway, but that's even longer another story. All you need to do is worry about getting in the right mineral intake. That's the only thing you need to ensure.
Absolutely.
Now, the thing about Dr. Sebi is that he promotes an alkaline diet, because your body is full of energy. And touching on law, that's what they extract from you. They don't care about gold or paper. They care about making you think that gold and paper is worth something, so that you can spend your energy to try to earn something that's really worth nothing. So, but anyway, so your body's energy. So if you pollute it with acidic things, which we all know with a battery, if it becomes acidic, it doesn't work. Well, your body is a battery. That's why in the Matrix, they showed you they use us for our energy like a battery. So that's why you get put in a cell when you get charged with charges when you go to court. So they worked it all into their language anyway. But the point is that your body's energy. So if you have a very polluted, acidic environment inside of your body, one, that's what disease grows in. That's the number one reason cancer grows, because it needs acidity. And parasites thrive off of acidity. So Dr. Sebi's diet is basically to put you in a more alkaline state. Now, Dr. Sebi's diet is very strict. I personally would say, unless you're sick, you don't really need to do Dr. Sebi's diet to feel okay and feel healthy. Now, if you got cancer or some sort of disease that you're fighting, then yes, I would say you definitely want to jump on Dr. Sebi's diet and cut out any type of, processed food, sugars, anything like that. And it makes perfect sense if you think about it from a critical standpoint, that if you are a battery and you're filling it with things like dairy, like eggs, and meat that are very acidic things, coffee, which is the most acidic thing that you can put into your body, if you're filling it with these acidic things, then you are going to be sick and you're not going to have the energy, because you can't flow. Now, another key to diet is, and this is through my study, so people can go research on their own and think what they want to think, but eating less is better, because one, the more you eat, the quicker things wear down. Also, processing food takes a lot of your body's energy. That energy, while it's processing food, could go to renewing all your organs. All your organs completely renew themselves. All your skin renews itself. Your skin is an organ, so it's the largest organ you have. So every organ sheds its cells, renews itself, and this is what your energy goes towards. And if you're spending all your energy processing food, then it can't fight cancer, it can't repair its organs, it can't do the things it needs to do. And that's another thing with thinking, like I told you before, is that the second largest uses of energy is thinking. So if you're overthinking things all the time and thinking all the time, your body cannot direct that energy to do the other things it needs to. That's why all the sages say to empty your mind, to not think, to stop thought, because thought wastes energy. And it also, thought is tied into being attached to physical objects when you start to think and divide things up. But that's more on the philosophical side of things. But from just a pure health standpoint, these are some of the things that people need to think about when they deal with health, and understand that their doctor, maybe a doctor, but doctors don't know anything about nutrition. That's why you have nutritionists. Yeah. Even then, most nutritionists don't know anything about nutrition, because they go to the same indoctrination facilities that everybody goes to. So they're learning what they want them to learn, and they don't study outside of it. Right, exactly.
Popular science.
Right. So, Dr. Sebi, like I said, is, when I was in Honduras, my wife is Garifuna, just like Dr. Sebi was Garifuna. My wife's from Honduras, just like Dr. Sebi was from Honduras. So, I actually drove past his compound, but that's when he got locked up just before they murdered him in jail. And yes, I'm going to say they murdered him, because that's exactly what happened. But anyway, I understand a lot about Dr. Sebi's diet. I was in all his groups and stuff like that back in the day, and I read a lot on it. But I've also trained and studied under a lot of raw food, vegan chefs and things like that in my time. It's just it's very simple. So like I said, I got into it because of philosophy. And like I told you before,
I got into it because of when I was younger. It was very innocent. I just wanted to care for the animals, and I felt like that was the biggest activism step that I could take to help the animals. So it was more like I want to help the animals. It was love for animals, and then it just evolved in my knowledge. And as the years went by, I started to understand that even our entire body is renewed. You get a new body every 7 years.
Yeah,
I
that's
was
what I say.
astounded by that fact. I said, oh my, so there is a new you every 7 years. Everything is renewed.
Well, yeah, your vessel's renewed every year. I myself never get renewed, but my vessel does.
The vessel, right, the body.
Our vessels do get renewed every so often. So that's why they say like every 7 years your body changes, because that's why people can get allergic to things that they weren't allergic to before, things like that, and so on and so forth.
It's very fascinating to me.
Even though most allergies and things like that are from getting vaccinations and letting them shoot you up with all kinds of stuff. So, I mean, that's mostly what those things come from.
Yeah, but essentially, your new self, in terms of the physical, has to get used to the environment all over again. So that's why what you used to be able to eat before, you suddenly find yourself not being able to eat later. Because that has happened to me. I used to be allergic to, what was the fruit I couldn't eat? And then suddenly, I could eat apples, but I couldn't drink apple juice. Like, all throughout my childhood, I could not consume apple juice. It just wreaks havoc on my health.
That could be contributed because, see, people, so to get into, the difference, when you consume an apple with eating an apple, that's a natural process because our ancient ancestors didn't have juicers or factories that make apple juice.
Right.
Now, when you make apple juice, it cuts out processes in how your body processes the fruit. And what it does is it floods your liver right away. Like there's no extra thing. It goes straight through you, right to your liver, and it overfloods it because your body is a time machine. Well, not time machine, but it works off of timing. So your stomach takes so long to process something, then it works its way through slowly. But when you juice things, you bypass the step of, first digestion starts in your mouth first. So digestion starts in your mouth, and when you chew things, it stimulates acid in your stomach to get working and things like that. And when you don't chew something, you just bypass all that. Things go directly into your stomach. It's not processed properly. It gets sent straight to your liver, which overtaxes the liver, which causes all kinds of issues.
And then it wasn't the right kind of juice too.
Well, that on top of it.
Store-bought, nastiness.
Yeah.
And so, but the interesting thing that I was the point that I was trying to make is I couldn't drink juice then, but I could drink apple juice now. But I buy a organic, juice to try to make a conscious effort to make sure that I'm if I am going to drink it, it's going to be a healthier version. But I remember going through all of that when I was a child, and I don't care what kind of juice it was. It could not be as organic or just a sugar-laden one. It didn't matter. Mm-hmm. What's the apple cider?
Yeah, apple cider.
It could not be any type of juice from the apple. It would make me violently ill. But now I can drink apple juice, and I remember when that happened, it felt like a magical moment. It felt like a magical moment because I tell you, Jamie, I drank apple juice like there was no tomorrow at every meal, at every opportunity, every single day, all day, every day, for like a good, stretch, maybe like a 3-day period. I was like, oh, I can drink apple juice. Apple juice is back in my life or whatever. But I can't remember the name of the documentary, but it was the one where the Australian dude walked around the country. He was traveling around America juicing and teaching people about juicing, fat sick and nearly dead. It had some kind of funny.
Yeah, I know which one you're talking
You know
about.
that? Yeah, it's kind of a crazy title like that. And so I watched that. I was inspired by that movie, and I practiced it for 2 weeks straight, just juicing fruits and vegetables. I was just juicing fruits and vegetables. Yes, yes, yes. I'm sorry, my mom was showing me something off camera.
Oh, no problem.
So, yeah, I was juicing, and then after about 2 weeks, I started incorporating salad. It was just, like a kale salad with tomatoes and onions, and I don't even think I had any beans or anything like that. It was just strictly vegetables. And I tell you, that was like the best time of my life. I felt so much joy, happiness, energy. I didn't need sleep. I think I may have needed to sleep maybe 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours tops. And that taught me a very valuable lesson. I mean, I was clean for that 2-week period. But I fell. I wasn't able to sustain it because old habits, die hard, as the saying goes. And so I was not able to maintain it. But every time that I go back into that whole fasting mode, when I'm coming out of the fast, because I do fasting too. I remember you touched on that. But when I did fast, whenever I come out of a fast, I go right into like a light, clean diet in terms of like juicing and just salad without any beans or anything like that. Because I'm big on chickpeas in my salad, and I didn't do any of that. It was just strictly vegetables, and sometimes a piece of fruit in it, like sliced strawberries or mango, stuff like that. And I'm telling you, you talking about clarity of the mind and thinking. It is a wonder. It's a wonderful thing, that experience, to have that kind of lifting of, everything just kind of lifts off of you. For me, anyway, that's been the experience for me. Has that happened to you? I know you said you went cold turkey.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't. I transitioned, but I noticed that when I do go into like the juicing and just the salad, when I do that cold turkey, when I go into that, I do feel a difference because I'm going from the eating whatever into being very restrictive, and I feel it almost right away. So do you experience that still, or you've already kind of like transitioned to eating just right, so you don't have that nirvana feeling anymore? You don't get that
Well, I mean, that was so I agree with you. So when I stopped eating meat, I found that my mental clarity was much better than it was. I felt lighter on all levels. Also, I was probably about 80 pounds heavier than I am now, and I always struggle with my weight going up and down, trying to, diet or do different pills or do different things, trying to keep my weight down.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So once I started eating a more regular human diet, the weight just started falling off. I wasn't going to the gym. I wasn't running no miles. I wasn't doing any of that stuff. I just was eating right. I cut down my proportions because, again, as I was saying before, that the energy that you spend eating is waste a lot of your energy, but also it wears down your body quicker because your cells, they even the scientists today understand that you age because your cells get full of what they call junk. So they're trying to devise little nanobots to go into your cells and clean this junk out. And part of that junk comes from eating. So the less you eat, the healthier cells stay, and the more they can be renewed. And so you know, and a lot of stuff I read, like I read what's it called, Live to Eat by Elijah Muhammad, the old NOI leader. He wrote some books on diets. I also read this book called Black Root Science, and it tells you that the ancestors didn't eat but once every 3 days, and now modern science will tell you that if you go on a water fast for just 3 days, your immune system completely renews itself and is always at full strength. So
Wow.
if you topple that with what the ancestors said, that you shouldn't eat but every 3 days, that means that those 3 days that you're not eating, your body can spend its time to renew its system, all its systems, and do all that stuff like that. And even modern science is saying that a 3-day fast will renew your whole immune system. And so that, coupled with what I've read on other things, tells me that that's most likely the best thing. Also, when I eat less, I find I have more energy. Again, that's because the less you eat, the more energy can go to other things instead of processing food. So another thing that eating clean has taught me is that I have an older daughter. She'll be 19 in September, but I hadn't had a offspring until then. I should never call her my daughter because she's not my daughter. That's commercial terminology. But my feminine prodigy that I had 19 years ago or so, we conceived her not with my wife, but with another female, well, not female, but a feminine being. So me and my wife were trying for a long period of time. I went vegan before, and I wasn't vegan per se. It took me a while to get off of milk because I hadn't really studied the aspects of what milk does to your body. So it took me a while to get off milk. So I for the first year or two of being plant-based, I wasn't eating any meats, but I was still having dairy milk here and there. But I learned, that dairy milk is for baby cows, not for human beings. You don't see other animals in nature unless it's like a dire circumstance where they lost their mother suckling from another type of animal's milk, and you only see animals suckle milk while they're infants. You don't see grown adults and the adult animals other than humans drinking milk. So after I started understanding things and seeing it from a more naturalistic side of things, I understood that milk wasn't for me. So my wife, after she see me lose some weight and the things that my diet was doing, she also got tired of cooking two different types of meals because she was still eating meat and I wasn't going to eat the meat. So well, not meat, but the flesh of an animal. So she got into veganism, and me and her struggled to have a child. We went through IUIs, where you have where you go to the doctor, they try to help you conceive. We went through all those things like that. Nothing worked. I mean, I literally spent like $20,000 on these procedures to try and conceive a child. But once my wife cut, because she was off of meat, but she was still eating dairy and cheese and things like that also. But once she went to see a naturopathic doctor instead of going to see just a normal doctor, the naturopath said based upon her blood type, she needs to be a vegan. So once she completely cut off the dairy from her diet, we conceived literally within a couple months after that, after spending years upon years of trying and trying to get medical doctors to interfere with it, trying to help the process along through these unnatural ways, and it still didn't take place. But as soon as she cut out the dairy, we conceived. So there's no doubt in our mind that it was a diet. Now I'm not saying this is going to work for everybody, but this is my experience to let me know that diet played a part in that process. So I and if people just use their think outside of what they know and actually read something and study something, or just critically think about how the human body learns something about anatomy and what our anatomy more matches. We don't have anything that consists of a carnivore anatomy. We have more of a we have a herbivorean anatomy, which again, as it states in the Bible in Genesis on the first page, that the seed, the herb of seed was given to men for the meat of men. So, once you study things and start to think back, like I told you before, I would argue with vegans like, you're all crazy. I'm not no rabbit. I'm not just eating vegetables. I would say all kinds of wild things because I was talking from a unlearned thing. I might have been educated in something taught to me in a school, but we all should know by now that schools are just indoctrination systems to make everybody slaves, keep you sick, dependent on the government, and all those things like that. So, once I started thinking about things more critically, it made sense to me. And so, I have things in my life that have proven to me that eating a better diet is there. And then, so.
I mean, that's a powerful testimony right there. Amazing that, it took leaving, the allopathic, way of medicine to the naturopathic, medicine and practice to realize that, diet plays such an integral part in our health to the point where you were finally able to conceive, a child. I mean, that is huge. That is huge. So I just can't. I don't know what other evidence people are going to need, but that is huge right there. That should convince people that, make better decisions and really take heed to that. But see, what happened is, because this is such a commercial realm that we live in, they take it and they run with it in terms of the next diet, lose weight and weight loss, and that has become a booming industry, with billions and billions of dollars being poured into marketing, and so people just think in terms of, okay, fasting and watching what you eat, they automatically relate it to weight loss and losing weight. They don't relate it to it's your body's the right path or to eat healthier. It's a lifestyle. It's not a diet.
Right. It's definitely a lifestyle because it's not a fad. And it's something that you got to be dedicated to. But just like you say, you sway sometimes from here to there. I mean, I mean, it is what it is. I mean, but what people
I have my moments of weakness.
Yeah.
If I see a coconut cake, I have to physically restrain myself because I love coconut cake. I and I know there's dairy in it, and I try to, like psych myself out, like, no, don't eat it. But, sometimes I'm strong enough to resist, and sometimes I'm not. Hey, there's no shame in my game. I know that I have a sweet tooth.
Yeah, I mean, I have a sweet tooth too, but I mean, I make sure that when I do eat sweets, which I shouldn't be, which I'm also working on cutting out. I eat vegan treats. There's many vegan treats out there that don't contain.
Yes, the vegan selection has really been popping. I mean, I remember when I first started transitioning back in the day, like 20, 25 years ago, the vegan stuff and the vegetarian fare tasted like cardboard. But now, it's it's delicious and it's tasty, to the senses and to the eyes even. They have vegan ice cream and vegan cakes and all of that. But my next evolution in this on this journey to eating healthy is I would love to see, it would be my dream and my pleasure to see alkaline vegan restaurants or alkaline vegan food fairs, readily available at different, restaurants because, like I said, I've discovered that my body enjoys that way of eating. Like I'm a whole different being just eating from the Dr. Sebi list or fasting. So I want that to be readily available, and it's just not. It's just not available. It's just not. It hasn't. It hasn't taken off. That.
Well, I mean, and also I mean, I don't know. You live in Maryland, so in the nation of Maryland, but you know, uh, I mean, DC has a few places. When I was living in Pennsylvania and Philadelphia, um, Philly has tons of places. But the problem with it is that it is a trend. So people charge
Yeah.
a lot of money. See, it's not that these fairs aren't out there, these places to eat, because there's a few alkaline, raw vegan spots out there that but the thing is, when you go to these places, when you buy juice from them for, 16-ounce thing of juice is going to cost you like $10, $11, $12. Some of these places try to charge you for a juice, and then if you get a food. So I mean, when you go to eat at these vegan places for two people, if you're getting some food, a juice, and maybe a vegan dessert, you're paying like $80 or more
Yeah.
to
At
eat
least
out.
a minimum of
Yeah.
$50.
Right. So it's like it's sad to me that people always capitalize on things like this, and that's my
Right.
problem with it. But I know we probably got to try and finish up this
Yeah.
health thing. But the
It's been
one
a
thing
long 45 minutes or so run, and so
yeah,
but I like.
I just want to end on something though, because this is
Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead.
this so eating a proper diet is very important, but I also study qigong under my friend and teacher Wayne B. Chandler, and through my study with him, and studying qigong, which comes from the Taoist, the ancient uh, Asian belief, Chinese belief, not belief system, but it's more of a philosophy, understanding of reality. Um, your emotions affect your organs, so your emotions are vibrations in themselves, and those emotions they affect the magnetic shielding around the cells of your organs. So when certain emotions affect certain organs, and when the shielding is down and the magnetic field is distorted because of your emotions that are uncontrolled, it allows these toxins in the foods that you're eating to penetrate the cells and to damage the organs. So most disease does not come first from food; it comes from the mind first. And actually, there's been detection that the test, I think it's called Hertzhammer effect, where he was able to study the brain, and when a certain emotional rises, you can see in the brain where this emotion comes from, and then they were able to detect these waves that it causes, and these waves then correlate to certain organs. So they've been proven through modern science that emotion affects organs. So not only do we have to watch what we feed our physical vessels, but we also must watch what we feed our minds, because the more cloudy our minds are, the less we can see our true selves within our soul. So that's one of the most important aspects of health, is not just healthy eating, because there's a lot of people who eat healthy but still die of disease and die of early deaths, and people are like, oh well, see, well, he was healthy and he died anyway. Well, you don't know how he was handling his emotions either, what things were going on in his mind.
It goes hand in hand.
Right, it goes very hand in hand, and again, your mind, your thoughts affect the vibrational waves of all your organs and cells. And when you're overstressed or angry, or all these different emotions that humans go through, if we don't learn to internally transmute them and settle them, it affects our organs and makes them more acceptable to disease and pollutants in our food. That's why, like with this 5G thing that's coming out, most people are, that study this stuff that I trust their knowledge. It's dangerous, but they say you can counteract it through an alkaline diet. That it only affects the heavy metals that you take in from eating meats and things like that. These metals, and also vaccinations have all the heavy metals. So when these waves from the 5G interact with those metals inside of your body, it causes disease. So and this is yeah. So I mean, this is just even though there's been a pretty lengthy video on this topic, but like this, and obviously I'm not telling people what to do. People can do whatever they want to do. I'm just speaking personally from my experience and I'm making none of this stuff up. The stuff that I know comes from books that if anybody asks me to, I can point to where I read it, where then they can look at their references and see where they got it. But also to use your own mind and but see, the problem is that I always get upset of even in law and with things in society, like, but what I gotta understand is this is just the age that we live in. I mean, and not everybody's not meant to wake up. So, even if someone's meant to hear your message, even if they're 1,000 miles away from you, they'll receive it. If they're not meant to, even if they're in your face while you're telling them, they're still not going to receive it. So, not everybody's meant to receive this information, and not everybody is. That wouldn't be balanced. The fact that
I always tell everyone, it's kind of like become my catchphrase. Everything is trial and error until it works for you. What works for me works for me. What works for Jamie works for Jamie. Everything is trial and error until it works for you, meaning you have to be willing to step out on faith and test what process or what idea or what concept. It's gotta stop being a philosophy, and it has to become an action. And just be willing to give new things a try, and then prove it for yourself. That's called due diligence. Mm-hmm. But you have to prove things to yourself for yourself. So everything that we discussed here may or may not work for you, but don't be too quick to dismiss it just because you haven't tried it, you've never heard of it, or you're categorically opposed to it. Be open to trying new things. Trial and error is the way that we grow. It's the way that we expand our horizons. I mean, just be open to new ideas. Try it, prove it to yourself. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, you move on and just leave it right there.
Yeah. So, and I agree with you.
All this arguing and bickering back and forth is just not necessary.
Oh, yeah,
you're wrong, I'm right.
Well, like we know in law, it says arguments are for fools, but also philosophy. Once you start to argue, you start to lose the way. So the thing we're saying that some things work for some people and some things work for others. So what I'll just caveat on that before we end this topic is that in certain aspects I can agree with that in certain realms of things, but when it comes to, let's say, what we're talking about, health, it's just like when you look at nature, right, and you see all fish of one kind doing one thing, you see all birds of one kind they all have a way they do things, and it's not specific to the individual bird. It's what that species is supposed to do. So, when it comes to health, and this is not about what works for you, it's about, now that's also going to be caveated that we're living in a very unnatural time. So, there's a lot of external things that we have that we deal with that also change the scenario unnaturally. But from a natural standpoint, all humans are supposed to eat a certain way. It isn't about what's best for you. So, like I was talking to my buddy earlier about, and because I was listening to a Santos Bonacci video, and he's talking about what they were like. Well, how do we know what our purpose is and what our purpose is now? To me, it's the same thing with purpose. Is that individual humans don't have a purpose. Just like each individual bird doesn't have a purpose, but the species as a whole has a purpose. That species together is here for a purpose to do something. Like the ants are here to do a job, the bees are here to do a job, the sharks are here to do a job. Everything here has something in nature that it's supposed to do as a species, not as a individual. A bird doesn't wake up today and say, what kind of bird? What's my destiny as a bird today? Am I gonna be a doctor bird, or am I gonna be? They just
Well,
do.
we can't. I just wanted to say, you know, I get what you're saying, that we as a species, we're supposed to have a certain practice, but what I meant by, what works for you, and what works for me, is that we have to respect that free will reigns, and we can't force anybody. We can't force it on them. Yeah, we may know what's right, or we may believe, in our heart and our soul and our being what we as a species are supposed to be doing, but we can't force anyone and our will on someone else if they're not ready. So that's what I meant. That's where I was coming from.
Yeah. I mean, and like I said before, we're all, like you said, we do to an extent have free will. So I mean, people can do as they please,
and as they do. And that's exactly what they do. I don't tell grown folks what to do.
But we also got to understand
everything ain't for everybody.
just because you can do something
doesn't mean you should.
Doesn't mean you should. So it's like when people are like, well, I eat meat and I'm still alive. Okay, cool. Yeah, you can do that. But my dog can also eat fruits and live for a while also. But it doesn't mean she's supposed to eat fruit. She's a carnivore. She's supposed to eat meat. Humans are not carnivores, so we're not supposed to eat meat. Can we eat meat?
All right.
Yes. So
let's just kind of wrap up, and then I'll circle back to you for final thoughts, okay?
Okay.
So if you enjoyed this video, you already know, give it a thumbs up. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and hit the bell notification so you don't miss an upload. Also, I wanted to interject in this outro is that in the video description box we have, I'm gonna put the Mastermind, because a lot of people have been asking me about that. So I will highlight that. It's actually in the shop link, but people are asking specifically and having interest in the Mastermind, to where I meet up with everyone, once a month, me and Jamie. And we meet once a month on a live call in a monthly Mastermind, where we talk about helping elevate each other. We are a meeting of the mind. Like, there is no leader, there is no president, or whatever other title that you want. This is a meeting of the mind situation where you're coming ready to share and mastermind with other mastermind people. So it's very uplifting, it's very empowering, and we come together to teach each other and to help elevate each other. So there is no I'm teaching or any one person who's teaching on the platform. It is a masterful platform where we are, in the process of, being, exercising our higher knowledge. So come ready. This is not for the faint of heart. And if you're coming to be, like a fly on the wall, you will be quickly removed, because that's not what it's about. It's about being, ready to share what you have come across in the journey, in whatever aspect, whatever it is that you're doing, bring it to the table and we'll grow, and that's how we network. Okay, so I just wanted to just point that out because I'm getting a lot of questions specifically about the mastermind, so I figured, okay, I'm going to just start kind of like interjecting it at the end of the videos to try to address it, and I'll put a separate link for the mastermind specifically in the video description box. So thank you for your interest. I appreciate your vote of confidence, and let's just grow together. So until the next time, everybody be safe, peace, bliss, and positive vibes only in the comments. Take care. I like that. I like that. I'm copying Jamie. Okay, bye everybody.
Well, hold on.
Oh, that's right. I did. I'm sorry.
Well, no, but the reason why I don't do this is because.
Oh, you don't do that?
It's because that's separation, and
I get it.
So the ancient ancestors used to do peace in this way because this is togetherness, oneness. So that's what true peace is. So that's why. So like I said, I'm only pass on the experience and what I've learned through much study in the topic of health of the human vessel. So each to their own, and everyone can do what they want to do, but there's consequences to all our actions. So I hope that your journey is safe and healthy. That's all.
All right. Thank you for joining us on this world peace mission to uplift and empower. See you on the next video. I'll do the thing together. Bye, everybody.